Hey Dave,
Yes?
what's going on?
Well, why don't you come over and see?
It looks like you're in a hole.
Yep.
Is your name Doug?
Nice one. I think it's Phil is the joke you're looking for though.
This is Dave's new condo.
The doghouse.
So, what you doing?
Well, this is the foundation for the new cob oven. Lo and behold, got to digging and had the topsoil or the organic soil layer that's full of the roots and stuff here. And then this sort of gray transition soil, which is hard to see right now. But then beyond that, it's just, as far as I can tell, beautiful clay. I'm gonna have to start peddling clay on the street. And this will all get filled in with gravel, or more likely slag rock from Sudbury,
Oh
which we'll try and find locally. Let the filling begin.
One by one.
Oh, perfect.
Nicely done.
Okay, so that's our foundation done. We now have a frost-proof foundation for our oven. So we've dug down to a depth of 3 feet, backfilled with gravel, and so now it's well drained to a depth of 3 feet. And as an added benefit, we got the clay construction soil for our oven at the same time. And I've tamped it down. You can make a homemade tamper from a couple of short sections of 2x4 with a chunk of 2x8 on the bottom. So the next step, now that our foundation is done, is to build our oven up. By raising it up, we're going to make it at a little more convenient working height. We're going to use a combination of cinder blocks towards the back, where they're going to be hidden against the fence, and then natural stones making a nice, hopefully more graceful curve at the front. Okay, so obviously the cinder blocks are not the nicest looking building material, that they have the advantage of being very easy to work with. It only took a few minutes to set up the back half, and we had all these lying about our yard. Actually, we just dug them up. They were part of a foundation for a previous building, a shed or something, we're not sure. So it seemed only sensible to use them since they were laying about. So now that we have it started to build up, we go right back to the old gravel pile and start filling up all the spaces in between with gravel. So I need my flat stones now. A lot of snow that will make finding those flat stones that are buried out in the pit quite a bit more difficult. And if I've learned anything in my old age, it's that I need to work smarter, not harder. So that's pretty much all that we're going to get done today. Sometimes just taking a little step back from your project and really helps you figure out what the next step is, or take another look and see if you've done anything wrong. So I came inside for lunch and got all dry and warm and started thinking about those cinder blocks more, and thinking about how all of my fill is going to spill out those holes. I was also looking and thinking that that didn't seem like a very strong orientation, that the blocks themselves could probably break across those spans fairly easily. And it occurred to me it would be much nicer if the holes ran vertically instead of horizontally. So a little search on Wiki revealed that, lo and behold, that's how they're supposed to be oriented. And not only that, but those aren't even cinder blocks. So this afternoon, now that lunch is wrapped up, I'm going to head out and we're going to switch from ridiculous sideways cinder blocks to properly oriented concrete masonry units. For any viewers who tuned out in disgust after seeing me placing all the blocks sideways, well, there's not too much I can say to you because you're already gone. But everyone who's still watching, thanks for sticking in there and remaining faithful. So this is the new wall with the concrete masonry unit now properly oriented, and boy does that make a whole lot more sense to me. And then we can fill up. This might be pretty basic stuff to anyone who's ever used these, but I never had. I just found them in the yard. So, and then we can fill up this the vertical channels that we create and essentially sort of connect these things. Okay, so here we are back at her today. So I have the first course of that laid, and then the backfill with gravel has begun. I'm going to do a mortar of clay, so that'll just be our basic clay soil mixed with some sand, and that'll be the mortar to hold the rocks together. So Kylan and I did some testing of our clay last night, and we've determined a sand to clay ratio of about 2.5 to 1. Seems right for our soil, so that's what I'm going to do. Or a pile of rocks that have been collected in various sizes, some mid-size rocks, some smaller ones to fill in the holes. Tried to get them all flat. Tried to get one enormous one that was the size of the wheelbarrow, and learned a little bit of a lesson there. Put a bit of a dent in the side of the wheelbarrow, and looks like it almost punched a hole through the bottom. And then when it all toppled over, there was no way I was going to lift it back up, so it just got rolled off to the side. We've got this frame and the tarp. So the tarp is going to get pulled over the frame, and then this will be our little mixing arena. And then of course the frame is there to keep the clay and the sand and the water and everything inside the tarp so it doesn't get all over the yard. Our sand is not of the greatest quality. There's our sand pile that we collected, and it has a lot of pebbles in it, so we're using a screen from our homemade dehydrator, and we'll use that to screen out to get finer sand. And we've got a bunch of buckets that we've collected from around town as well, and those will be used for some mixing and hauling and stuff as well. So now that everything is in place, hopefully it'll go fairly quickly. Okay, so now it's time to mix up the mortar for our foundation. Got the sand and the clay in a 3-to-1 ratio, and a bit of water, and away we go. Okay, well, that was a bit of a learning experience. Started out and the mix was way too dry, so I added a bit of water, and then it seemed like it was way too sandy, although I have the feeling that the clay just wasn't mixed in properly. So I added more clay, and then I added more sand, and then I added more water, and then we had too much of everything and the mix was too wet. So then I added more sand and a little bit more clay, and it's still too wet, and now we have an enormous pile. So it's lunchtime. Okay, so that is our oven foundation complete, 100% complete. We've built it up using the stones with a gravel fill and a little bit of clay mortar, clay sand mortar, to help hold the stones together, hopefully. And we've built it up to a height of approximately 28 inches. So 40 inches has been recommended as the ideal working height for most people. And we're going to have about 12 inches of insulation between here and the actual cooking surface of the oven. So that's why we've aimed for 28. In actuality, we've hit about 32 because of working with the stones. So for now, now that we have our foundation done, we could just go directly into making the oven, just lay some fire bricks and go into the oven. But we're making an extra insulated oven because we want to be able to use our oven in the winter, and we think we will more frequently if it's insulated, and we'll also get more use out of our oven, we believe. And with a really well insulated oven, after baking bread or pizza, then we theoretically should have enough residual heat to be able to put stews or baked beans, other things like that into the oven and continue to cook.